And welcome back to another episode of Pokemon Knowledge. So, on yesterday's video, I talked about some things. I talked about flipping low dollar amount cards. And I think I did something where a lot of people got upset. Like, I wasn't mentioning the cost of grading because the example I gave was I talked about the Pikachu from Pokemon Go. It came in like the tin. You get the Pokemon Go Pikachu, the one where he's walking, looking up at the guy, and then there was the other Pikachu Blockstar promo. He has like the birthday hat on it. Both those came in the tins. I said if you graded both those are both dollar cards, so $2 for both cards. If you grade them at PSA, spent the $15, you'd be all in on those cards for $16. And as recent as yesterday, there was an auction where two of those as a lot sold for $66. So on average, $33 a card, which at first I said for a while those were selling at 50, 40, and then in my video I said now they're probably worth 30. And I was actually wrong. They're actually worth $33 a piece. And I used the numbers that, well, if you were into them for 16, that is almost 15x on your money per card. And a lot of people came after me and pretty much said one thing. Well, you're not very good at math if you can't figure out that if you're into a card for 16 and you only flip that card, well, you flip both. So you're into both those cards for 32 and you flip them in a lot for 66 because it was $61 plus $5 shipping. So 66 altogether. Well, if you're into those for $32 and you sell them for 66, that's not a 15x multiplier. So what I want to do in this video is kind of like clarify that. And I think I'll try to give you guys examples too of what I mean. So here's like one of the most famous glaring examples. So this is the Old Maid Pikachu, graded in a PSA 10. 2 days ago, this card sold at auction for $47.05. And it had 20 bids on it. Not this particular Pikachu, but same card in a PSA 10. So 20 bids, $47.05. And the crazy thing about that auction, which cards like that, you'll come to find out they are crazy. At the same time, today, you can do a buy it now of that card for $34. But 2 days ago, it sold at 47. So I know what you're maybe thinking. You're like, well, PK, obviously, maybe that card sold at auction 2 days ago, and somebody decided to lower their price in the meantime to now have the lowest buy it now be $34. That makes sense. No, no, no. That is not the case. That auction still existed, or that buy it now for this Pikachu still existed at $34. So even though that card sold 2 days ago at $47 at auction with 20 bids, you still could have went and did a buy it now of that same card for $34. So there are some cards that the market is just super irrational for, still pays crazy amounts of money for, and literally will pay $12 higher than the nearest buy it now on a super easy, super modern play. And then you can take another card like this. So you got a Neo Discovery Espeon Hollow. It's number one in the set for small set. There's only like 75 cards in Neo Discovery. Super easy set to complete. Neo Discovery obviously has the real true Moonbreon, if you want to call it or whatever. But that card in PSA 7, you're probably looking around $90 if that card sold. That card in near mint sells for between $80 and $90. Maybe if you get lucky, you could pick up some near mint sales at $70. But that card graded in a 7 already sells for 90. So assuming you pick up a near mint copy and you do grade a 7, you're not going to make any money on that card when you take into account grading fees. So when I talk about like the real quick turn and burns, I use examples like this. This Pikachu where, you could pick up an entire deck at one point for $16. So to break down the value per card, a lot of people had price points between 25 and 50 cents, and 50 cents is probably like even an outlier. That's not even true. That's like on the high end. So 50-cent price point, or you can grade the same Espeon from Neo Discovery, pick it up near mint, pay $80 for it, grade it, get a 7, pay $15 to grade it. Now you're into that card for $95, and that card is worth $90. So this goes to that conversation of how do you look at like just the value of the card. Why aren't you considering grading cost? Well, it's because when I grade cards, and this is where we're now going to get to the super subjective part of this conversation. At the end of the day, I'm a collector. This is still a collector-based channel, even though we talk about a lot of investing stuff. And when I do send away cards for grading, I do like already take into account grading fees by sending out certain cards that I expect to cover all the grading fees of that card. And I know for some people out there, that's probably going to be a tough thing for you to understand. But that's a lot of my mindset is I'll send a couple cards with the sole purpose that I do not expect to take any money out of those cards. I expect all the money that I receive out of those cards to start paying for grading fees. That's probably the wrong way to go about stuff, but that is the way I go about it. That's the way I think about it. That's probably wrong. And I'll admit that like comment did have some merit to it. But I do just want to make sure that I'm getting across the point when I say that there are some easy plays for modern, when I give you guys examples of, two cards like this. If you can't understand why taking a 50-cent card, putting it at auction, grading it for $15 and selling it for $47 is an easier play than picking up this Espeon for $70, paying $15, grading it, and then selling it for $90. If you don't understand like the difference in those plays and the profit margin per card, then it is going to be like an almost impossible conversation for me to have with you when I'm trying to explain to you like the easy plays. And yesterday's video, that's what I was talking about. I was talking about the easy plays and what $15 grading opens up. This is a huge caveat too when it comes to $15 grading, and I don't want you guys to forget this. $15 grading, if you are grading the stuff that I was talking about in that video and the things that I was giving, all the examples I was giving you are not long-term plays. So like this Espeon was a PC card. In fact, this Espeon has been showcased on my channel before raw. I opened this out of one of the repacks that I did when I opened up a Jolteon tin way like a ton of videos back. I opened up a pack of Evolving Skies. In that Evolving Skies pack, I had 10 cards in it. 9 of those were Jungle Eevees. The holo in it was this Espeon. It was a big repack, a joke video. It was made to be a joke. Hopefully everybody understood that it was a joke. It was another one of those if Whatnot was scamming you videos. This is what it would look like. And it was that card I pulled out. So that card's actually been on my channel. Now, this is the thing. This card raw is, like I said, 70, 80 bucks. My price point for this card originally is not 70, 80 bucks. I couldn't even tell you. I know this came out of a collection buy that I bought a lot of Neo Discovery cards from. If I had the ballpark it, I'd say maybe my price point into this card is $5 to $10, and that might be on the high end because I don't remember how I valued that collection. But this price point for this card personally, to me, is super low. So even though my price point for this card, because I've had it for so long, is $5 to $10, $15 a grade. I'm into this card for $25, and now it's worth $90. But this is the thing. I'm probably not going to sell this card because I don't think it's worth it to sell in a 7. If anything, I'd probably crack it out, either do one of two things. Try regrading again, get an 8. Then I'm into this card for more money, or I'll crack it out, sell it raw. I don't know. I have no plans to sell that card. So now that Espeon is dead money. That is not money moving. But yesterday's video wasn't about cards like that. It was about cards like this. And that Pikachu, I know one thing about that Pikachu. That price point, in my opinion, only has one direction it's going to go, and it's down. I don't ever see that card doing a hard turnaround and doing some kind of Moonbryon-esque thing where it starts creeping up in value. At least this Espeon, even though it graded a 7, even though I'm into this card now, locked up $25, 10 of those dollars I've been locked up into this card for probably a half a decade at this point. So that is $10 that has done nothing for me for 5 years. And then plus the $15 grading, which was super recent when I graded that card. So that's stagnant money now. When I talk about these modern plays, though, I'm not talking about stagnant money. I am 100% not talking about stagnant money. I'm talking about getting that money moving. And so when I consider grading fees for this Pikachu or any old maid card plays or any of the things that I was talking about in yesterday's video, on PSA, in order to get your submissions back, they're not going to charge you until the day they ship them out, or real close, like within the week before they ship them out to you. You got to use your credit card. A lot of the modern plays I'm talking about are turn and burn as fast as you can possibly get. I talked about the Pikachu, the secret rare from Crown Zenith yesterday. Somebody reached out to me. They said, "Hey, PK, because of your advice, I graded that card at PSA." He sent it at $75 again, something that I would not recommend doing. He sent it at $75, got a PSA 10. I looked at it just recently, like earlier today. Yesterday it had 60 watchers. Today it was up to 92 watchers, and this was like this afternoon. And the price of that card was already up to $191. That secret rare Pikachu from Crown Zenith is around 30 to 35, maybe $40 card. I'm sure you could see a couple sales. There are probably a couple buy it nows on eBay right now for that secret rare Pikachu for $35. He decided to have some balls on him, and good for him. It was a ballsy play, but it's going to pay off. He paid $75 to grade it. He pulled that card out of his pack himself, but let's just say the raw value at another 35. He's all into that card, technically $110. It's got 2 days left at auction, and it's already at $191 with 92 watchers with 2 days. It ends on Sunday night. I want you to think about that play. Took a $30 card, spent $75 to grade it. It's already at auction with 92 watchers at $191, and it might even be higher than that. He killed it. That was a great play by him. But when he asked me, he goes, "What should I do with this card?" I told him, I said, "You need to be first to market with that card. You need to sell that card right away. That is not a card that you spend $75 to grade and sit on that card and just have it be part of your PC. That is not that sort of card. That is a card that, in my opinion, now only has one trajectory, and that trajectory is gradually going to get lower and lower and lower. And I don't know where that card bottoms out, but I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to bottom out way lower than wherever he ends up selling that card at. So his play was a great play. And the crazy thing is, I own that same card. I actually traded for one of Rattle's cards, one of the cards that Rattle pulled during his stream, one of his secret rare Pikachus. I was able to trade him for his card, and that's how I got mine. And I just told you last night, I put my PSA submission. That same exact Pikachu was in my submission, but I didn't have the balls he had. I didn't send it away at 75. I sent it away at 15. And it will be interesting to see that $60 price difference between what he graded versus what I pay. And in the month or month and a half or 2 months, whenever I get my bulk return back again, it just went out in the mail today. I made the submission last night. By the time I get that card back, I do think it's a 10 candidate. It was a clean card, well centered. Let's assume I get the 10. In a month and a half to 2 months from now, even though I paid $65 less to grade that card, I would be very shocked if the sales are comparable. I bet you he sells for way more than the $65 when you take into account like the time and the price difference and everything. And I hope that makes sense. So when I talk about looking at a dollar card, and I look at, I say you take a dollar card, you put it in a piece of plastic, you sell it on the market, you make a 15x. I hope you guys are understanding that I'm talking about the raw card inside, and I'm not talking about the plastic, because really at the plastic, that $15 grade in, even though I did tell you that I, take a few cards, put them into my submission, that I, hope those few cards pay for the entire submission. And then I kind of look at the rest of the submission as profit. Even though I do that, is probably not a good way, but you could still look at it as you're paying PSA for the grade in. You're paying it with a credit card. It might as well be a free short-term loan, because by the time you get those cards back, by the time you sell them on eBay with eBay's new payout system that they have, and you're paid out pretty much immediately, at least your funds are available immediately if you want them. And then it takes like 3 days for those funds to clear. So it's a very small window of time. Like, there's some plays that I've gotten back from PSA. I've actually started listing my cards on eBay before I've got them, started building the auctions. And to the person who sold that Pikachu, or is selling that Pikachu right now, he did the same thing. He said, "Should I wait to get that Pikachu back?" And I told him, I said, "No, go on PSA right now, pull the photos from the PSA that they scanned for you, use those for your auction. And that's what he did. And then when he got his card in the mail, which he just received it yesterday, the day, I think it was yesterday or maybe today, he added 2 more photos to his listing with the exact card and then a piece of paper with like his name on it, which is all you need to do to just like truly verify that he has the card. And that is sometimes tough to do because you have to edit your auction while it has bids on it in order to add more photos and do stuff like that. So he did it. I want you to understand, like, that's how my thought process is. But I understand other people's thought process when they said, no, PK, if you spend $1 on a card and you spend $15 to grade it and you're into that card for 16 and you sell it for 30 or $40, it's not a 15x multiplier. It's only like a 2x multiplier. And sure, I could understand that. But I just want them to understand that I think they're correct by that. But they're also not understanding the timetables that I'm working with on some of these cards when I talk about these super modern plays. But there are some vintage cards too. When you spend $15 to grade cards, those cards can be locked up for years. I own some graded cards that have been locked up for years. The grading fees were sub $10 at the time, but those grading fees were still locked up now for years. Now, even though those cards were locked up in grading fees, from where I bought those cards to what I paid to grade them to what they're worth now, like there's still been a huge growth in those cards. So I don't even know how to like understand those. I have a few cards that I graded that at the time were worth like $50, and some of them are worth $600-700 now. I don't even know what that multiplier is. So, when I take into account, and this is some at the time were higher end cards that I picked up raw, graded myself for $8 a card, picked that card up for like $50. I was into that card for $58. Now we're talking between $500 and $700 on some of these cards. Now that is a huge multiplier, but again, all my money that's into those card and into that slab is still in a way dead money. That is unrealized gains. So the problem is I just think we're trying to have 2 different conversations, but try to like make them into one, if that makes sense. And I'm sure it doesn't make sense to a lot of people, but I know it's tough. And I'm just going to say it right now. The people that said that, who said that it's not really a 15x multiplier, like I understand where you're coming from, and you're probably right by saying that. But I just want you to understand, like, when I say you can take a $1 card or $2 card and grade it in PSA, get a 10, and have a 15x multiplier, 16x multiplier, I hope you can understand that I'm talking about the actual raw card inside the slab itself and not the actual slab itself. Like I'm talking about the raw card, because if you were to sell that same card raw on eBay or whatever, you're only going to get $1 to $2 for it. You're never going to see its true maximized realized gains. And that's what a PSA slab is going to do for you. A PSA 10, especially, normally whatever the highest end of the market is, with the exception of like maybe a Beckett Black Label or something, super high end, super unattainable or super hard to get. Think about like the Moonbryon from Evolving Skies. PSA 10 rate, 85%. Beckett Black Label rate, 5%. So your chance of getting a black label is 5%, and the chances of getting anything but a black label is going to be 95% at Beckett. Where if you send that same card to PSA, you have 85% chance of getting a 10. The prices are not really comparable when you look at black labels to PSAs, but I still like to talk about PSA 10 prices as a max realized value you're going to get out of that card. And I said, with the exception of the black label. So if you take a card, grade at PSA, and that card is a 10, no matter what the market does on that card, if the market goes up, your card is going to be worth whatever the max realized value of that card is. And even if the market continues to go down and the market crashes, your card will still be on the high end of that market, even though maybe it's way lower than you paid it, because that 10 is going to give you that absolute highest premium for the condition of that card at any point in this hobby. Whether this hobby is doing great, it's going to give you your max realized potential. And even if the market goes to the absolute shitter and where in the bottom of the barrel, everything's crashing and burning around you, that card, whatever the market is, it's still going to be the highest that card is worth, if that makes sense. All right, fun. I'm gonna go look at the chat real quick. This is gonna be a short live. I tried to actually like make this into a video, but I don't know how. I've lost the ability to pre-record videos now. I start pre-recording a video and I start stopping and starting. I'm just like, nope, gotta just hit that like button. It's ride or die on all these lives from now on. So Joe said, yeah, I noticed that from the video, but whatever, we understood what you meant, PK. Like, I'm hoping people could understand what I'm meaning too, but I feel like people don't understand what I mean. And that makes me more nervous too, because I want you to understand that I do understand that 16 to 33 is not a 15x multiplier. Like, I hope people out there understand that I am talking about the raw value of the card, but I don't think people really understood that. And, an example being, and I think a lot of people are like talking about eBay fees and, shipping cost and like eating into all that. That's a whole nother conversation that's going to be really tough to have with a lot of people. Listen, there's a I think if you believe that, you are a little spoiled with the modern Pokemon graded hobby. If, when you talk about taking a card, grading it, and making 10, 15, $20 on that, if you look at that as not being a good thing when you start taking in profit margins and your profit margins are 3, 4, 500%, and you're only taking 10, 15, 20%, but your profit margins are in the 500% range, historically in the hobby, low price cards was where it was at. A lot of turning and burning. There's people out there who are doing that for years. And in fact, not only were they doing that for years, the people are still doing that. You look at a guy like TCA Gaiman. TCA Gaiman has graded more Black Star promos than probably anybody out there. And I would go out on a limb and say he is probably the #1 grader of Black Star promos when you add in all 53 of the Wizard of the Coast Black Star promos, all 53, and then you just assume that he's graded X amount of every single one. He's probably graded more Black Star promos than anybody has ever done it in the game. And the reason why he's been able to do that and be so successful for such a long period of time is because of his price points. His price points are so low. He understands that when he was grading those cards, getting the maximized realized gains out of those. And yeah, the market has gone up on a lot of those cards. He's been super lucky. But when you add in all 53 of those Black Star promos and you try to start guessing how many he's graded of each one of those and how many of just the population, just think about like, what is it? Mew #8 Black Star promo, like how many of those cards he's graded, just him alone, how much of the population it's been him that's, made. He has created the floor price for that card for going on years now. In a PSA 10, the floor price is his listing because he's always lowest on the market. Or I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. He hasn't created the floor price, but he's created the cap price, meaning like the most you're going to be able to get for that card, he's created because I'm sorry, I said floor price. I used the wrong words. He's created the max that those cards are going to be worth for a long time because he has so many of those listings with such high quantities of card like that. But he understands that he doesn't need to sell all those cards at once. He's been trickling those cards out onto the market for years and years and years. And he talks about, doing plays, a couple of those cards a day, a couple of those cards a week. But at that point, so much time has gone by and he's cycled through so many of those cards. He's paid off his grading fees and the original cost for those cards just multiple times over and over and over again to this point where if any one of those sells, it's more or less free profit. But then somebody could also come back and use that same argument and be like, it's not free profit because you still have to take into account the $8 that he paid to grade that card, however many years ago he decided to grade it. So you still have to take all that into account. And I agree with people when they do say that. So, but to shit on 5 or 10 or 15 or $20 when you're just looking at dollar amounts and you're not looking at percentage gains on some of these cards, I personally do feel you're doing yourself a disservice. And I won't lie. If people do believe that the grind is too hard for them, then maybe this route is not probably the best route for them. And I've talked about it. The best cards you can possibly buy are the cards that you break even at, or no, the worst case, well, you find the card, I should not best or worst case scenario. You find the cards that at a minimum on a 9, you break even. The best card to buy is in a 9, you still make money. And then on a 10, huge multipliers. Those are the cards you need to find. There are cards out there that do exist where 9s, you still break even, couple cards, 9, you make money, and then huge multipliers at 10s. Those are the cards you need to find, and they're out there, especially mine. Shout out to Professor Oak, I sneezed. But those plays exist for modern. So I just want you to understand, like, that's what I'm talking about. So La Butler says it was probably somebody scrolling down and in Soonest and saw a Pikachu they wanted. They didn't even look up other copies, just concerned with winning the auction before it ends, is what I imagine. He's talking about the Pikachu. Yeah. And I've talked about this, I want to say as recently as last night when I made my last live. I am time after time, over and over again, seeing auctions selling for greater than buy it now prices. And the reason why I did notice that was because there were a couple cards that I was personally selling that I kept getting. My card I thought was priced lowest on the market. It wasn't selling. So I just randomly checked to see what eBay sales were doing. And there was a couple listings of a bunch of auctions that sold for, more than my card did. Maybe it was because my card wasn't titled properly or anything, but it was. All the information was there, but I kept getting beat out by auctions. So I've started to go back to my time of selling stuff at auction and being super successful again selling stuff at auction, which goes back to a week or two ago when I mentioned this fact for the first time. Like, I think this is a change in the hobby again. I think we're seeing a lot of newer people come into the hobby, or we're seeing a lot influx of new money, or we're seeing something happen. And recently today somebody told me that like Brilliant Stars booster boxes are no longer available on PokemonCenter.com. I'm waiting to see how those work out. Crown Zenith are no longer available on PokemonCenter.com. I told you I'm interested in see how those work out. And one thing you'll hear me say over and over and over again, people will never want a product until it's no longer available. And the second stuff is no longer available, that's when people want it. Brilliant Stars was available at prices way lower than $144 for a long time. Long time. And then all those booster boxes dried up. Then the cheapest available was PokemonCenter.com. Then Brilliant Stars booster boxes were available on Pokemon Center for a long time at $144. When a TCG player and some eBay sales were selling for like $170, $180. They were still available on Pokemon Center. And then eventually now all that supply has been finally eaten up. Brilliant Stars is still high on my personal likelihood of a reprint, but at this point I have no clue. The fact that we haven't heard anything about reprints is shocking to me. I know we've heard some rumors end of February, early March, but the fact that all the people that I do personally know that have distribution, trust me, if we did hear about restocks, people would be making videos about this. It wouldn't be like a well-kept secret or anything at this point. Like, if people knew, you would have already found that out. But we haven't even heard of what those reprints are going to be. Are they going to be every single end of the Sword and Shield era set? Probably not. Which one is it going to be? Who knows? Is it going to be Brilliant Stars? I would say personally, high likelihood. Is it Evolving Skies? Maybe. I don't know. Is it Astral Radiance? Maybe. Silver Tempest? Should be. Lost Origins? Should be. It should be a lot of these sets, but all those sets I just named, that's a lot of sets to all just dump in booster box format. And again, when we talk about reprints, we're usually talking about booster boxes. So all those sets I just mentioned, seems pretty unlikely to me that they all drop in booster box reprints all on the same week or 2 weeks. We have seen that happen when we saw the Battle Styles, Chill and Rain, Fusion Strike, Evolving Skies dump all at once, where we saw 4 different sets all drop. So it's not out of the realm of impossible. We've seen it happen literally within the last 12-month timeline. So it's just weird. It's a weird thing going on. So Amit here said, modern grading for low end stuff is not going to be a play for much longer, surely. I don't know. I don't know. I just told you. Somebody I personally know reached out to me on eBay. I think you could go look at it right now. Go follow the listing. He's currently selling that secret rare Pikachu from Crown Zenith. 92 watchers, currently at $191. You would say that the modern play is dead or should die, but the market is, for whatever reason, never going to allow that to happen. I don't know how much, and this is the craziest thing. The market loves one thing above all others, is PSA 10s. They really do. PSA 10, as long as that card is in a PSA slab and it has a freaking 10 on it, it almost does it. And I got to be very careful with my words. That's why I use the word almost. It almost does not matter. That card always sells. I don't think I have personally ever in my life seen any card graded in a PSA 10 that started at 99 cents and finished the auction with 0 bids, with the exception unless somebody put like the shipping of like $150 for shipping. But if assuming somebody had a 99-cent auction with $5 shipping, I have never seen a PSA 10 of a Pokemon card, of any card, ever not sell, which is crazy to think about. When you have however many hundreds of thousands of PSA graded 10s that exist in the entire world in Pokemon cards, that I have never personally seen one listing start at 99 cents and end with 0 bids being a PSA 10. I don't, what do I say to that? Like, how do you have a never? But then maybe there comes a time in the future where we might eventually see a PSA 10 of a card not sell at a 99-cent listing. Maybe. But then you see all this extra buy in demand that's coming from all these whatnot sellers. I feel like any whatnot seller could move a PSA 10 Pokemon card. It doesn't matter the card. It could be some crappy uncommon. Shout out to Dan, Catch 'em All Collectibles. Somebody could grade the Dan from Rebel Clash, the trainer card. As long as it hits the 10, I guarantee you at auction, it will sell for greater than 99 cents, even though it's just some non-hollow trainer card from Rebel Clash. That card, because it is a 10, there will be somebody out there who wants to buy that card. And I'm sure whatnot sellers would be able to move almost any PSA 10. So Nicholas Catalano says, it is similar to how Evolving Skies booster boxes were being sold at $300, but there were sales actually at like $250 a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, I can see that. Let's see. People are going to get left holding a load of sub $5 junk slabs if PSA keeps this return time frame up. Maybe. Junk is subjective. And this is where we're now going to have to like deviate a little bit from the conversation. When I think of junk slabs, I personally, it's not even the card, and I hate to say that. I hate to say that I don't think of junk slabs as being like the card inside the slab. Right now, where I feel junk slabs are is just low grade cards, low grade, unwanted cards. Super duper modern V cards in CGC 8.5. Just I don't know names. I don't even like know any V cards off the top of my head. Some crappy Darkness Ablaze V card that somebody decided to send away to CGC ended up hitting the 8.5. That is what I think of as like the absolute junkiest of junk slabs. Now, at this point in the hobby, and one of the things I talk about all the time is you need 9s or 10s at a minimum, especially with PSA. Hopefully everybody is getting good at their pre-grading where their 10 rates should be going up. If your 10 rates are starting to go down, that means you're either doing one or two things, in my opinion. One, you're not really familiar enough with grading skills, or number two, and probably kind of just getting lazy. Maybe you're not pre-grading your cards as intensively as you should if you do want to make these short-term plays. So I think those are probably like the two caveats. But yeah, do I ever see junk slabs being PSA 10 cards? I don't know. Junk is subjective too. There's even with like modern sealed, I think there's some junk modern sealed product too that aren't going to perform nearly as good as booster boxes. What are they called? Mini portfolios? Crimson Invasion. I don't think your mini portfolio of Crimson Invasion is going to, play out as well as maybe your Crimson Invasion booster box. But I could be wrong. Maybe those Crimson Invasion things, I don't know, are selling. I bet you they do sell. I bet you they sell for like $7. There's probably even, but I don't know what the entry point for something like that would be. The entry point would be like high, assuming you picked it up at the MSRP. So really you would only have made like $1 per. We're not gonna do that. You almost got me there. You almost got me talking about mini portfolios of Crimson Invasion for a second, but I'm gonna stop myself right now. Josh Hollow says it's called hedging your investment. Definitely the safest way to handle investment. It's not sexy, but there's nothing wrong with it. Sometimes the grinded plays are not sexy. And I think people want them to be like these super sexy plays where it's like, I only send first edition base set Charizards, and I only send gold stars, and I only send shining cards, and I only just send the highest of the highest ends. And yeah, sure, that stuff is sexy. But the true meat of the bone, where you're going to make the most profit margin, in my opinion, even though people are going to say like the profit margin being into a card for 16, selling it for 30 isn't as great. I'm going to tell you right now, like that $15 grading fee, because of how quick these cards are being turned and burned onto the market, is like an almost non-factor. And that's probably, and I will not say the word probably, it is definitely a bad way to look at that sort of stuff and to consider those plays. I'm just telling you, like, that's what I do. And a lot of this channel is I'm walking you through my plays. How my plays work out for me is probably going to be different than the way they work out for you. Now, just because I've been successful with these plays doesn't mean you're going to be successful with these plays. Just because I've been successful with these plays in the short term to long term doesn't mean I will continue to be successful in these plays for the long term. These plays can dry up and I could start taking a beating. The only time I felt I ever took a real bad beating in this entire hobby was grading with CGC, which was the dumbest thing I've ever done. But I thought CGC was a good company, but they ended up being a bad, shitty company. So I made that mistake. I thought I was going to shit on CGC again this video, didn't you? Didn't you? Did. Let's see. Northwood said $15 opened up and I just submitted 25 cards to see how it goes. Figures crossed, a good return. As long as you did good pre-created, man. Tell you what, modern Pokemon, the print quality has gotten better. There are definitely the outliers. There are some of those really crappy printed sets, but Crown Zenith overall, I've been very happy with the print quality. A lot of people I've talked to have been super happy with the print quality. We're not talking like Burning Shadows. Edward Scissorhands was over there cutting out all your cards and just jacking up all the edges and corners. It's not like that. A lot of these modern cards have been relatively minty. But you will always get the one card that you truly want to hit a 10. That will always be the one card that doesn't, though. So also keep that in mind. I don't know how the world works or how karma works or whatever God you believe in, but trust me, if there's one card you really want to hit a 10, it won't. And a perfect example of that card for you was, I explained to you guys, my son, he's super young. I had him sitting on my lap. We opened up a pack of Brilliant Stars together. I had him he wasn't really opening it, but I was helping him. And he pulled the Charizard V-Star from Brilliant Stars, not like the, Rainbow Rare, not the alternative art, just the regular Charizard V-Star. I sent it to PSA. I did get that card back, ended up hitting the PSA 9. I really, really, really wanted that card to hit the 10. And I'm probably just going to honestly crack that card out and probably just continue to send that card away, because that is not an investment thing. That is just a thing that I want his first ever Charizard that he pulls. I want to be able to grade it a 10 for him. And the fact that that card is not a 10 does kind of make me sad, because in the future, I want him to look at that card. And for him, that card will be such a foreign card to see a Brilliant Stars card from 2021. Wait, I opened this as a kid. I'll be like, yep, you sat on my lap. We opened a pack together. And I want that. I wanted that to be a 10 so bad. And it hit a 9. So now I just got to keep cracking it out. and keep resubmitting. And with the fact, unless he watches this video in the future, he'll never know that his dad cracked that card out a half dozen times, kept submitting it, trying to get a 10. But we will get it. And that will be the most expensive V-Star Brilliant Stars Charizard that exists, because it will probably, all said and done, if I never hit a 10, there could be hundreds of dollars of grading fees wrapped up in that card. And this is not financial advice. I promise you that. But yeah, if there's one card you want to hit a 10, it won't. And the rest of my submission, though, was just like 10 city. There was a couple like other 9s, but for the most part, it was 10s. I think, I forget. I don't want to like misquote the number, but it was high. I only say I hit like, I think it was like let me think, like a 39 card submission. I think I was like 4 or 5 9s, the rest were 10s. So it was like 35 10s, 5 9s or 4 9s, and one of those was the Charizard, which was literally the only 10 I wanted. So it happens. Pikachu said PK crushing the live schedule this week. So shout out to Pikachu. Pikachu, spoiler alert, will be on my channel tomorrow night. We're going to be doing an interview together. It'll be the first time Pikachu's ever been on my channel. That live is going to start 9 p.m. Eastern. So if you guys enjoy Pikachu, if you just enjoy these lives, if you just enjoy hanging out, listen to some people talk Pokemon, he's a, great resource in this hobby. He is starting to dive down into definitely more the nichier stuff. So he'll bring a very good perspective, especially how recently so many of these conversations have been dominated by like that modern conversation. And why do you talk about modern all the time? Because modern's there. It's the information still kind of changing. The information is still relatively new. It's still speculative. Only talk about like vintage stuff or the super niche or the niche stuff. Those conversations can dry up because there's only so much information that's going to be released, So Pikachu is going to be able to bring a good perspective. I know he's going after some relatively niche stuff, and I think he's going after some high value cards, and he's really doing the hardest thing. Everybody here is like niche cards, and their first thing they think is expensive cards. And yes, sure, price is definitely an issue when it comes to like the more niche vintage stuff. But the hardest thing about what he's doing is sourcing this stuff. And to source the niche of the niche type cards, that is going to be a lot of people's like biggest barrier of entry, is just sourcing stuff. And Pikachu now has made a ton of different like friends in this hobby, a ton of different, he's doing it right. So that's going to be a good conversation. I recommend you guys all tune in 9 p.m. Eastern for that. Mason Berry said PK is a machine that doesn't need any grease. Mason Berry, like I said, Mason Berry doesn't hit the like button, but everybody else out there should hit the like button. So if you did me one favor, smash that like button on this video right now. If you're watching it real time, hit it now. If you're watching it after the fact, listen, do me a simple favor. If you're watching on your computer, move your mouse over. If you're watching on your phone, just pause this video. I won't be going anywhere. Go down below, hit that like button. If you're not subscribed to the channel yet, hit that subscribe button, press play again, and we'll be right back at it. Let's see. Let's see. We got Dan Catchmall Collectibles in the chat. Always good to see Dan. Me and Dan have a video coming out. I'm not going to like give away any spoilers for it, but it's coming out in like July of this year, or July, August timeline. So here we are 5 months away, and we already have like a video planned. So there's I got a lot of fun stuff planned for this channel going in the future. And I'm very bullish on Pokemon, but I'm also very bullish on this channel. So I'm hoping this channel continues to do what I consider well and continues to grow. And if that happens, a lot of things open up. And a lot of things open up, but a lot of conversations open up. And I think that's the most important thing, is just talking Pokemon. And sometimes it is mentally like a therapeutic thing to just talk Pokemon to some people. And the reason why is because I'm sure a lot of you guys are out there running through the same issue right now. Is just Pokemon at times could feel very daunting if it's just you all the time, and to not be able to like verbalize your thought process sometimes, and sometimes what are you doing, why are you doing it, and being able to adapt, change. And that's one of the things I try to do with this video, is say, you know what? You're right. I can see where spending $1 on a card, $15 to grade it. Maybe it's not a 15x multiplier the way I like to look at that card in my head. So that's something I'm doing. That's something I'm trying to adapt. People are saying their CPAs are currently rolling their eyes with all the Pokemon stuff. Oh man, can you imagine? I always tell you guys this conversation, like in this Pokemon world, we're talking about $300 booster boxes of Evolving Skies and saying, is there going to be a reprint? You know, $300 booster boxes of children's playing cardboard. And some of the people in my real life, they're talking about the price of a dozen eggs and how much the price of a dozen eggs have gone up. And I just listen to that and I'm like, you know what? Or they're talking about their power bills, how their power bills now have like highest service provider charges. And I'm listening to that and I'm kind of going like this. Yeah. Price of eggs. Price of eggs. Service providers. Yep. And thinking in my head, like, oh boy, I just had a 2 hour long conversation. We talked about the price of Moonbreons at, $900 for a PSA 10 or a Evolving Skies booster box, cracking 300. I'm just like, ooh, yeah. Oh boy, I'm like getting super disconnected from reality at this point. So it does put your life into perspective. So sometimes when you have those conversation about the price of eggs, you really need to come over here and have this conversation about Pokemon, because otherwise you'll just run out of people to talk to. My wife understands Pokemon for a little bit, but she's definitely at the point where she doesn't want to listen to it anymore. Her conversations are never about Pokemon. She has a lot of Pokemon knowledge though. Shout out to my channel's name, but all right, let's see. Whoa, I skipped way down again. I'm just gonna go to the highlighted questions, then we're gonna end this chat. We'll try to do this for me, a quick chat, try to keep it under an hour. Alex says, what's your reason for certain sets getting reprinted for ones that you say should be? Supply and demand. Pokemon, if they're gonna reprint a set, they need to do one of two things. One, what is truly the playable cards? What is like the playability aspect of Pokemon needs, like the actual TCG? And then the second one they need to do is they need to look at secondary market prices. What sets on the secondary market are still in rotation, but yet the prices have gone crazy high. Evolving Sky is still going to be in rotation for almost like 3/4 of a year, 9 months. That is a still playable set, but the price point for that set has gotten way too high for the players. And keep in mind, this is still a TCG, trading card game. So there are still people that play it. So when I get my reasoning for certain sets, that's what I look at. Yeah, people are saying, distributors are saying reprints are coming, but we don't know which ones. Why don't we know which ones yet? Yeah, and I think it's funny too here, and people talk about like the Crown Zenith debate. Is Crown Zenith going to get a reprint and stuff? And like, it just makes you like rub your head. It's like, oh my God, Crown Zenith was released like 1 week ago. We are 1 week into the release of a set, and we are already like, maybe not we, but there are people out there talking about that set as if it's never going to appear again forever. And it's like, you might be putting the carriage before the horse just a little bit on that one. Alex says, how much would you think Dan would be willing to pay for a CGC Perfect 10 of that trainer card named Dan? Probably, if I had to take a guess, knowing Dan, $69.69 he'd be willing to pay for that card easily. Let's see. Pikachu says, PK, did you see the E4 discovery of hidden Pokeballs in Tishirta's art? That's an awesome find. No. Tell me, what card is it? That's interesting. I got like 2 things of water I've been drinking. Pikachu has a massive Pokemon stock in the hobby. It's a mascot. It will always be popular. It will always generate value. Well, sure. I don't hate that. I mean, that makes sense. Pikachus have historically always been relatively strong cards. Professor Oak says Rebel Clash Dan is almost as rebellious as Dan Catchmall Collectibles. Son of Merc says, who's buying these 10s and not selling 10s? And what are they doing with them? Just sitting on them? I've never thought about the second half of that question you asked. I've always asked the question, who's buying these cards? I've asked that on more lives than ever. And I would love to have that person on the channel one day. And I wouldn't be mean. I don't think it would be a mean chat. I would just ask them, like, why? And I always said maybe they have some amazing answer, some genius type level answer we can't even like wrap our little brains around, and their answer makes so much sense. But the second part of your question is, what are they doing with them? Are they just sitting on them? I don't know. I have no clue. Like, why would you sit on some of this stuff? I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. May never have an answer for that until I have somebody on there who could tell me that. So Crane Guy says, I think more people are into modern Pokemon. I'm seeing sports card dealers at card shows buying and selling more graded Pokemon cards. Yeah, people are moving where the money is. I think we're starting to see a lot of Magic the Gathering players funnel on over. I think Magic the Gathering like screwed a lot of their player base. I think a lot of people are seeing what's happened at the sports card market. Sports card market is as speculative as it gets, because at that point you're speculating on players, especially when you're looking at rookie cards of different players, saying, I think this guy's going to be really good in the future. His rookie card's going to go up. I need to get the 1-in-1. I got to do all this stuff. And he might just be 1 year into the league. Pokemon doesn't really have that issue. Charizard's in the Hall of Fame. And not only is he in the Hall of Fame, he's still playing. So, it's a different type of situation. Pikachu, he's first ballot Hall of Famer, just like in baseball. And you had your first round ballot Hall of Famers, and it was like Babe Ruth and Ty Cobb and Walter Johnson and, Honus Wagner and all those guys were in the baseball first ever Hall of Fame class. Well, Pokemon's got that same Hall of Fame class, and it's got Pikachu and Charizard and Blastoise and Venusaur and Mew and Mewtwo and you name it. It just has, and Raichu obviously is in there. If anybody tells me Raichu's not a first ballot Hall of Famer, that's it. You're done. You're dead to me. But yeah, Pokemon, those guys, they're all first round ballot Hall of Famers, but they're all still playing. So it is a little easier to speculate on Pokemon. And I think a lot of these people that don't know how to navigate Pokemon can navigate a little bit easier because of that fact, that the big cards stay the same. It's just like looking at a Charizard. When you look at a bunch of modern sets, with the exception of, well, no, there's no Charizard in Evolving Skies, so we don't have to use that as an example. Any set that has a Charizard in it, more times than not, when that Charizard has some sort of like, difficulty in pulling or some sort of rarity factor to it, that Charizard usually pulls out and is the most expensive card in the set. Sure, there's like a few lower examples where it's like that Charizard is a non-holo in the set, or that Charizard is like some kind of radiant variant or something where maybe it's not the most expensive card. But other than that, usually that Charizard always is the most expensive card. So somebody who has very limited knowledge of this hobby, that is a very easy entry point to go for them. You could tell them, be like, name a set that they never heard of. Say, I don't know, Plasma Storm. And there's a Blastoise in there, but that's not the most expensive card in the set. The most expensive card in Plasma Storm is the Charizard. So it's the same with any of them, all right. Let's see. Robin Tuck said, cards on TCG Player go for $5, or Rob said, cards on TCG Player for $5 go for $20 to $50 on Whatnot. It's insane. People don't do their research, and it's hurting the real collector for these cash cow collectors. It is, and it isn't. Cheval says, I like how PK's face brightens when he talks about Crimson Invasion. Yeah. Skater Nesto. Good to see you, Skater Nesto. Skater Nesto is a good conversation to have. He's always, once in a while, you'll catch him hanging out in Professor Oak's Discord. Dylan Smith says, what makes for a good promo to grade? Two things. First thing is fan favorite Pokemon. That's an easy one. And beautiful artwork. Kind of runs hand in hand, that beautiful artwork and fan favorite Pokemon. But the number two that makes a great promo is the smallest possible barrier of entry in order to get that promo. An example of that, I've talked about it, is on the ball Pikachus, only available in UK. In order to get them to America, you had to pay a lot of money for shipping. The only way to make that play worth it, you had to buy those cards in bulk. That barrier of entry was finding a seller who had a lot of those cards to sell to you at once. To find the guy that was had a listing with a quantity of 50. That was the only barrier of entry. And the barrier of entry was realizing that card was available. Same thing, like special delivery Pikachu. Special Delivery Pikachu was available for an entire week on Pokemon Center in November of 2020, literally in the height of heights and the booms of booms coming right out of the Logan Paul first edition booster box break. While there was 0 sealed Pokemon product available on PokemonCenter.com, that Pikachu card was still available. All you had to do was spend $20. The thing was even though it was super mass available, there was this very small barrier of entry to it. And that small barrier of entry was people needed to know that card even existed. Another thing, Special Delivery Bidoof has a not a small, but a pretty big barrier of entry that Pokemon had to send you a code. You had to agree that you wanted that code, and then Pokemon Center would send you that code. Then you could put that code into Pokemon Center and then get your Special Delivery Bidoof. That's what it takes. Takes very, very small, the smallest of small, minute barriers of entry. You would be amazed at what little teeny barriers of entry stops people. See that right there, that card, that Charizard, which is now a pile of OC Charizards over there. The only barrier of entry was you couldn't ship it to the same address. You couldn't use the same credit card information. That's it. You could have sent that card to your mom's house, to your girlfriend's house, to your house, to your best friend's house, to your best friend that you only kind of talk to once in a while, to whoever's house. You could have sent that card to, and they would have. You could have sent it to your sister, could have sent it to your brother, could have sent it to your next door neighbor, could have sent it to your PO box, could have sent it to a million different places. But people weren't going to do that. They weren't going to spend that time to just send that card to a bunch of different places. They weren't going to do it because there was just that much little bit of a barrier to entry. That's what I look for promo cards. Things that have very small barriers of entry. Alex says, PK, Hayden CGC. Yeah, they screwed me over. I was destroyed. People are saying, yeah, PK's raising a future collector boy. Yeah, my son's going to be relatively spoiled when it comes to Pokemon. He's already, better off than a lot of people starting out. Like, he's already now, since he was alive, has one of every single booster box ever printed. Now, I don't know if he's going to stick with Pokemon. Well, this is the best part. He's young. He's less than 2. So there'll come a point where he'll be at the most engaged in Pokemon that he'll ever be. But I'll be there for that. And that could be 5, 6. I don't know. When do you probably get at your highest interest level in Pokemon? Probably like 3rd, 4th, 5th grade. So around that timeline. So, 5, 6, 7 years from now, that will be like that timeline where he'll be most engaged. And at that time, he'll have just an awesome collection already. He'll probably have like one of the more crazier collection, because I don't know how many 7-year-olds will have one of every single booster box that was ever printed, since they were born. And then I've been giving them some graded cards here and there, especially when I've gotten some duplicates, just kind of putting them away for them. I know James from Z&G Emporium, he's been putting away a bunch of cards for his daughter, and I think his one rule is a bunch of vintage cards, minimum grade of a 9. So his daughter, who doesn't even know that collection exists, probably, I don't want to like shit on people, but her collection's probably better than like some people watching this video, and doesn't even know that collection exists. So that'll be fun. Mason Berry says, what the fuck, PK, give the rest of us a chance to do live. Anybody could do lives. We're all friends here. Mason Barron says he's the villain. Yeah, he's the villain of this story because he doesn't hit the like button. But I'll remember that. I'll remember that, Mason. Alex says PK is sneaking out the back of the house when I see the IRS in the driveway. Play ? B Thong says, will there be another Pokemon Center Crown Zenith reprint? It's currently sold out for the 2nd time. Yes. Yep. Sure. I have no way to prove that, but yes. If you ask my personal opinion, yes. Yes. Mark it. Mark your calendar. It's currently February 2nd, 2023 at 11:40 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You guys heard it here. Yes, there will be another reprint. Let's hope in 2 years from now, I don't have to now make a apology video saying I was wrong, that there was never a reprint. But my official answer is yes, there will be a Crown Zenith reprint, and you will see those available again on Pokemon Center from now until 2027. So you got your official answer there. Not a lot of people willing to do that. We did it. So let's see. Professor Oak says PK membership when? I don't know. This is a weird thing. I don't want to. I mean, I could do memberships, but the only problem is if I do memberships, like I'm not putting anything behind a paywall, so it would just be you giving me money to give me money, and I don't think I'm ready for that yet. I don't need your money, so I don't want it. So I'm just not going to do memberships, and just because it's weird, I feel I'm never going to put stuff behind a paywall. So what are you going to get out of it? Maybe like an emote, like emojis? Is that what you want? I mean, I could do it. Do like, sure. I don't know. Memberships. I'm not against memberships, as long as memberships don't hide anything. If memberships have stuff behind a paywall, that's where I don't like memberships. But if you're just going to do a membership to do a membership, like, I got nothing wrong with it, because the best part of a membership is if people don't want one, they don't buy it, and then they still get all the stuff they are already getting from the channel. So that's my official like stance on memberships. Pokey Na says, if you had a trainer gallery card dedicated to you, PK, which Pokemon will be on the card with? Oh, come on, Raichu. Let's be Raichu. That's easy one. Yeah, next question. Joe says, PK, I buy 10s and I sit on them sometimes. Joe, how have those buys been? Are you shopping around? Are you buying 10s of modern plays? Like, what are you doing? Gotta be careful sitting on 10s. Let's see. Somebody said nice question. Let's see. Professor Oak says Quaxley. It would be the card on his trainer card. Let's see. What's everybody's favorite Pokemon? Ninetales for him. Raichu. That's the only correct answer. John Doe said 151 set better blow our minds with OG Altarts. I have a feeling it's gonna. Just like, ready? let me get ready for this. Crown Zenith, best set Pokemon ever made. Brilliant Stars, best set Pokemon ever made. Evolving Skies, best set Pokemon ever made. Shining Fates, Shining Pokemon are back again. Best set Pokemon has ever made. Hidden Fates, best set Pokemon has ever made. Team Up, best set Pokemon's ever made. Cosmic Eclipse, best set Pokemon's ever made. Shining Legends, oh my god, they finally brought back Shining Pokemon for the first time. Shining Legends, best set Pokemon has ever made. Evolutions, best set Pokemon's ever made. Just, we've done it over and over and over and over and over again. And guess what? 151 set. Best set Pokemon has ever made. You will hear that, and you will continue to hear that. There will be one thing recited more than anything else. The best set ever made. It's just like, it's a meme in a meme. A lot of Mew and Mewtwo fans I see in the chat. Pokey Collectibles says Retro EX Dragon Rayquaza is OG. Yes. Talk to your man Basic Trainer in the chat. Basic Trainer owns that card in a PSA 10 if you want to buy it. And Cool Trainer Ryan also owns that card in a 10. So if you want to purchase that card, you could also reach out to Cool Trainer Ryan. Both those cards are sitting on that Rayquaza from EX Dragon, both graded in a 10. But it is a beautiful card. I don't love the artwork. Don't shoot the messenger on that. I don't love the artwork. I don't hate it. I don't love it. Daniel Rutt says, was able to grade one PSA 10 special livery Charizard out of 6. The pop report for that card is funny, and a 1 in 5 ratio for 10s. Hey, you still hit 1 out of 6 for a free card. And this is a crazy thing too. People don't like saying that the special livery Charizard is a free card. They're like, no, that card, it's a free card. Yes, you had to pay for the $5 for the promo and you had to spend the $20 online. I love how everybody just says any product that was bought at Pokemon Center, the value of that is zero. It's like, no, when you bought your your single 3-pack blister and then your 2 single sleeved blisters in order to get it for $20 and a couple cents in order to get free shipping, it was still free. Anybody who I don't know. I wonder maybe there'll come a day where I don't talk about special livery Charizards again. I feel that personally, special livery Charizard was one of the easiest, best modern plays ever. Ever. Now, that was a lot of big words to use. Ever. That was one of them. Maybe not the number one, but it was up there. It was one of the easiest plays and one of the easiest, like, long-term trajectories for a card like that. Without, even with all those cards that are going to exist, it is going to be a strong card for a long time. Now, this is the thing. That card is doing what cards should do. You know, when I sent my PSA 10 away, I sold that for $625. I express graded my Charizard for $100. Think about that, because I was so worried about that card. Now, hindsight, that play ended up being great. It is no longer selling for $625. But now fast forward to where we are today, that card is still selling for greater than 200 to like between 150 to $200 in a PSA 10, which people are going to say that is a huge retrace, but no, that is a good retrace, because that's what cards should do when populations explode. When populations go higher, cards should go down in value. And like, this is the thing. While I was the seller in that transaction, it takes 2 people to be part of that transaction. The seller, me, but there was a buyer. What happened with that buyer? Somebody sitting on a bag of bags where I couldn't fire seal that thing fast enough. I don't know. A lot of I don't knows sometimes. And like, those are things that I don't understand. Like, I understand my role in that transaction, but I never understand the other end of that transaction. And even today, people still picking those cards up for, between greater than $150 in a PSA 10. Me personally, I still don't understand that. Why don't you personally have a huge stack of those cards? Why aren't you slowly grading them, trying to get 10s yourselves, if you're willing to pay that amount of money? I think about $620, like the person that paid for that card, I'm like, how much product could I have gotten at Pokemon Center? That is at a minimum 30 different special livery Charizards I could have gotten for $600. Assuming those 30 Charizards, I just blind sended them. I wouldn't even have to pre-grade those Charizards. I could just blind send 30 of them. And I probably would have gotten one of those at a minimum back in a 10. And more likely than not, a bunch of those I would have got back in a 10 for the same price it would have cost to acquire all those raw for what they paid. And then sure, if I sent 30 cards out at $15 a piece, it's still going to cost me $450 in grade. And so that's something to factor in. But out of those 30 cards that I sent away, do you think that I could have sold 30 graded special delivery Charizards in various grades and recoup my $450? Yes. The answer to that question is yes. Because now that $600 is what that person was willing to pay. So you don't even have to factor that in some weird backwards math or however you want to get to that number. So. Oh. Oh, yeah. People did say Bud Light emojis in the stream. We could be on to something there. Okay, maybe memberships are back on the table because of the Bud Light emoji. I like the way you think, Professor O. Let's see. Boop, boop. Professor Oak says short, long streams for the win, but better with emoji memberships. Why do people want a membership so bad? I can promise you one thing. If I do memberships, there will never be anything behind a paywall. So if you didn't want to support me, don't. You're free to just be a lurker and watch these videos for free. I have no, maybe, I don't know. John Doe said, would PK benefit more from a PSA sponsorship or Bud Light sponsorship? Well, my liver right now would like to chime in, and my liver says PSA sponsorship, but my brain is saying, no, PK, Bud Light sponsorship. How does alcohol work? That is your white blood cells taking the alcohol, bringing it to your liver, but then when it runs out of room in your liver, Your white blood cells are just taking that alcohol, traveling up, depositing on your brain. As it deposit on your brain, you're more or less poisoning yourself. That's how alcohol works. Your white blood cells just deposit more and more of the alcohol in your brain, but the entire time your liver is just churning. It keeps churning. It's keep processing that alcohol. And that's why when you go to sleep at night, those white blood cells are now taking that alcohol off your brain, bringing them back down to your liver, and your body's just, working out. That's why you could go to bed drunk, wake up sober. So my brain is saying yes to the to the Bud Light. And yeah. Alrighty. I think I just talked about white blood cells in a Pokemon live stream. First for everything. Mason Berry says, if PK got free Bud Light, my man would die. Saw him in Denver with free alcohol. Yeah, you don't want me with free alcohol. That's why if I get the keg down here, it's over. Let's see. Okay. Cheval says, PK, stop talking about all the flipping you're doing and bring that profit to Belgium, the BioRail Bear. All right. I think I've done it. This live went off the rails. Oh my God, I somehow made it an hour and 10 minutes. I don't even know what I talked about. But I hope I kind of answered the question, or at least my thought process about, the whole point of this live was talking about how I view modern, fees and stuff. And like the reason why I said a 15x is me talking about the raw value of the card and not taking into account the graded price. But I do understand where people are coming from, and they are not wrong. They are not wrong. I agree with them. They're probably correct. So I know where I'm right, know where I'm wrong, but I feel I just lie somewhere in between on that. So, all right, guys, appreciate every single one of you guys. Shout out to all my mods in the chat. Special shout out to Drew. Appreciate you, man. And for everybody else, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. And as always, I'll catch you on the next video.